welcome to our new football podcast. We're here in the depths of quarantine, self-isolation, doing a podcast that we're affectionately calling "The World in Motion." I think in this period we're all crying out for a bit of football, a bit of a release. So we thought, what better way to celebrate our boredom than to hop online and discuss some possibly contentious and possibly tedious footballing topics over the coming weeks. So this is essentially for our own amusement, and as you'll be able to tell, probably from the quite relaxed style over the coming 40-45 minutes. But if you enjoy it, great. If you don't, send all complaints to jamesetti@hotmail.com.
Alex J. Snook at googlemail.com, I think.
That's a good point. All complaints go to Alex Snook. So we hope you enjoy it. We're going to quickly introduce ourselves. I'm Anthony or Anton or Tony or however you like to call me. I'm a Spurs fan / Col-U fan. We're all Colchester born and bred here.
Apart from Rob, who's from Clacton.
Valid point, Joe. They're not a good side, though, Clacton, are they?
You're wrong. I was born in Colchester, so.
He's wrecked you there, Joe. But that's me. I'm here with my three esteemed colleagues. Hugh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Anton. I'm Hugh again. Sort of Col-U, but United fan as well. I've been brought in to provide completely useless stats knowledge of random football fans, their careers. So yeah, good to get started.
And I'm Rob. I was born in Colchester, and unlike what Joe said, I
have to fact check that one.
I am primarily a Liverpool fan, but not a glory hunter. I've been supporting them since the depths of 2005. I remember that final vividly. So before anyone calls me out on it, I can vouch for myself there.
And he'll fight you. He'll fight you.
Rob's willing to vouch for himself, which is great.
I'm Joe. Queen's Park Rangers fan. Yeah, it's a trial and a tribulation, but we love it really. Again, Colchester born and bred, and the voice of reason amongst fools.
Excellent. Well, that's the crew. We're looking forward to a quite hot topic today. We're going to be discussing and partly debating three of the strongest Premier League 11s of all time from the 90s, 2000s and 2010s. So we hope you enjoy the motley collection of anecdotes and footballing opinions that we end up putting out. We are recording. We're recording a podcast. We're not really sure what it's called yet, but it's amusing. The World in Motion, or as Rob kindly suggested, The World in Quarantine is quite a suitable name for the current climate. Right. Well, we're going to discuss something quite interesting today, aren't we, gents? We're going to discuss three of the best all-star Premier League 11s of all time, 3 different decades. Before we kick off.
Who's who?
Actually, before that, I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish a happy birthday to N'Golo Kante, who's 29 today. Good player. We'll discuss it later. Happy birthday, N'Golo. I'm sure you're going to be listening to this at some stage.
Big fan.
We'll have him on in a few weeks, you know.
Yeah, he'd probably be quite a good guest. He's extremely small. I don't know if that really affects how good he would be.
He can still fit on the screen, so it's fine.
Right, well, Joe, do you want to kick us off? What have you been up to over the last couple of days? Presumably nothing.
I'll bake some flapjack.
Nice.
Just a singular flapjack.
One?
No, it's a selection of syrupy treats. Not all for myself, thankfully. Played a bit of Football Manager. Colchester United doing very well at the minute, you know.
Are they?
Solid 16th last year, you know. They don't call me the
Are they
grind.
still in League 2 or?
Oh no. 12 seasons in, mate. I've spent a lot of time last week.
Which manager is that? Which season are you at now? 2030?
I thought it's time for me to buy a brand new one the other day. Because I was playing 2014, so I thought I'd buy a brand new one. So I bought 2018.
That's not brand new.
That is the point here, I'm afraid. I think you've missed that one there. We was on reduced on Steam. I thought can't go wrong with that. So I played a bit of that. I've been doing a bit of reading. Done me one exercise for the day, not today, obviously, because I can't be bothered.
No, obviously.
About it, really. Bit of bed.
Bit of bed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
Just before I ask you, Rob, it's not telling me how far we've recorded in the top left corner. It's just saying 000, but it has the opportunity to stop recording. So that implies we are recording. It's just not telling me how much.
It's telling me that you're recording, yeah.
Okay, well, presumably it's working then.
Yeah,
that's good. It's gone well. It's gone well.
Might have to cut that bit out. Yeah.
We can edit that bit out. That'll buff out.
We'll let that one out. I promise you'll let that one out.
Yeah, fine. Rob, you been up to anything interesting? Cutting your hair off?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've already gone for the self-isolation shave, but I mean, I've been doing this for the past year. So
you do look like a bit like Christian Poulsen.
I mean, that's a very niche
reference. A little bit. And Rag and Bone Man.
Somewhere between Rag and Bone Man and Thomas Gravison.
I mean, this isn't a very apt description for people who are listening to a podcast and can't see my face. But
no, but I'm painting a very vivid picture.
Yeah.
You're a very artistic man, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, whereas I look like a mixture of Nick Griffin and Gollum.
Also, didn't Christian Poulsen often have...
and Davey Wilson.
And Davey Wilson. Adding him into the mix doesn't really help me.
All that indicates I've got several double chins. I mean, it's not a flattering image, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's no football at the moment, so a lot of FIFA has been filling that time.
You have been playing a significant amount of FIFA.
I mean, you say playing, it's just mostly just building squads on Ultimate Team and then looking at them over and over again.
That is true, actually. I was saying to Will the other day that in my Facebook chat with you, if you look on the images thing, it's about 90% concept squads on Ultimate Team.
And then the other 10% was just screenshots of fancy football teams.
Yes, exactly. Dear.
That's been my life, really, not just the past 2 weeks. Nothing's really changed for me.
Yeah, shaving your head and playing FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good.
Next stop, act of violence against the community, I assume, Rob.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, shaved head.
Antisocial behaviour.
Antisocial behaviour, yeah, fair play. Over to you, Hugh.
Hugh?
Well, aside from the uni work, I've dug out my dartboard, so I've been getting back into the dart. Just in time for the World Championship starts when quarantine gets lifted.
Oh, Glenn Durant over there.
Well, exactly. Family friend. No relation, sadly. But yeah.
So, on average, how many hours a day have you been spending on Squawker at the moment? I assume 8 to 10.
Something like that.
He's spending 10 hours a day on that as well as doing uni work.
Not the Squawker quiz.
That's what he's doing his uni work on.
Oh, yeah.
That's what his dissertation's on.
Mate, there was a degree on that.
Full significance of statistics in football.
If they did, I would. Trust me.
Oh well, that sounds interesting. I've not been up to much, mate. Really, I've just come in from doing the last minute adjustments to the pen I've been making for my hamster. I've been making her a little run around. It's been quite enjoyable while the weather's been nice outside, doing a bit of woodwork.
Hopefully limiting him to one bit of exercise per day as per government regulations.
Absolutely, yeah. She's not allowed to touch her face while she eats either. Quite hard to control that in hamsters, I find. But yeah, I've been doing a bit of woodwork, playing probably too much FIFA with Rob, and a little bit of baking myself actually. No syrupy treats though. Made a custard tart.
Oh, very nice.
Quite a divisive pudding, but I like it.
1 week we'll have Greg Wallace on and go, oh, lovely.
I do love
it. I like a bird boy.
Yeah, we know you do, Greg.
He's ripped now. He's got a big Millwall tattoo on his chest.
That's disgusting.
See him working out on Instagram, and that's great.
Yeah, he's quite
good. He's good.
Quite chiseled these days. Yeah. John Turode, on the other hand, has got more chins than he used to have.
Well, yeah, I think Greg would batter him.
He would absolutely destroy him.
Whereas previously, Greg would have battered him and then ate him.
I feel I think we might have started to slightly drift off topic before we even got on topic.
Right, moving on.
Avoid legal snags by telling people they're being recorded. Come on.
So moving on from that. Again, just before we start the main segment, Rob, I'd quite like to invite you to offer up some more light-hearted footballing or sporting stories for the week.
Yes, yeah. Well, obviously now is a time for reflection, seeing as we've just been stuck inside for a long time. So I had a little dig back through the archives to find some more interesting news headlines that I found. So does anyone remember when Gareth Barry stole that taxi in Barcelona? Remember that?
Vividly.
Quite vaguely.
There we go, exactly, yeah. And then Patrice Evra licked that raw chicken on Instagram, and then everyone
that was quite a weird time. I feel like it was quite recent, like last year or the year before.
Yeah, and he's still alive, so obviously isn't that bad.
Yeah, he's a weird bloke actually, Patrice Evra. I think he's done quite a few weird videos.
Has he got? Is it him that's got about 23 siblings or something?
Could be true.
I'm sure it's him. Hang on,
We'll let you verify that.
Yeah,
go to Stats Corner.
Yeah.
With Susie Dent. Just see.
I like Susie Dent. She's nice.
Yeah.
And then a more recent news story, I've just stumbled upon this right now actually, was John Walters went on a 11-tweet tirade about how he caught a man taking a shit outside his house.
So wait, he tweeted it. He tweeted the guy, or he was just angry.
Just angry, yeah, just like venting his frustrations, and it took him 11 separate tweets to describe in vivid detail this man.
Is he an eloquent man?
I mean, it's quite a good read actually. I think he should flesh it out.
Did he use this stool sample chart to describe the offending?
You mean like ratemypoo.com?
Yeah, was it fluffy edges and?
Oh.
Your favourite.
The steaming heap. Yeah, the steaming heap.
Just to confirm, Patrice Evra has 24 siblings.
Is that actually that's true?
Yeah, I promise you that's true.
It's not like the Pacific Islands where like all the Tongans think they're all related.
No, it's according to BigSoccer.com, which obviously
a reliable news.
Patrice Evra has 24 siblings.
I was quite impressed the fact you managed to undershoot the number of siblings he had, and you guessed for 23.
Well, I thought I'd play it conservatively. Guess with 23, and then if I was wrong, you'd way up from there, really.
Yeah, valid. That's very interesting. Well, thanks for that, Rob. That was quite a nice, enjoyable way to kick things off. I think talking about feces within the first 10 minutes of the first show. Right. Well, I think we should probably start thinking about the actual football aspect, rather than talking about poo and hamsters. So I reckon, should we start with 2010 to 2020, or start going the other way with the 90s?
I reckon start with the 90s and work.
I think that could be a good way to do it. Work our way forwards from that.
Then we can only improve with our depth of knowledge.
We can, yeah. We can sort of scrape the barrel a little bit through the 90s.
I think it's worth pointing out that we were born in either 95 or 96. So for half a decade we were, but a pleasant afterthought.
Exactly.
After a few glasses of wine. But
I'm not saying we were all accidents, but some of us might have been.
I'm not saying Hugh was probably the most likely.
No, we wouldn't say that.
Let's not rule it out.
No.
Starting with 1990 to 2000 then.
Yeah, kick us off, Joe. That'd be nice to get things actually away.
In goal, we went for... So just to clarify, we're doing full Premier League 11 for each of the 3 decades. As agreed by the 4 of us.
After quite intense discussion.
I kept saying 2 guy, but they wouldn't have it. So feel free to write your hate mail to anthonyelse@gmail.com.
More 2000s anyway.
So we're starting off with goalkeeper.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hugh.
Obvious choice, really, Peter Schmeichel.
Correct.
Hard to argue.
Little debate about this.
2001 was voted as the best goalkeeper of all time by Reuters. Scored 10 career goals.
He scored 10 goals?
Scored 10 career goals.
Which
is actually more than I'm pretty sure it's about the same number as Niall Ranger.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Well, when he wasn't in prison.
Yeah, I was going to say he spent half his career
it is hard to score when you're doing 4 years.
He does have more felonies than goals, I seem to remember.
Does he? Should we have him on the show?
Absolutely.
What, Nile Ranger?
Yeah, have Nara
Get him on Skype from prison.
I don't think we should get him on the show.
Stint at Manchester City. So but less said about that the better. So really, yeah, pretty obvious choice. Only one other contention for me, which was David Seaman, who, out of interest, also had a lesser-known stint at Manchester City during a period where they didn't have any money.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't find it. It's hard.
No, Schmeichel's a shoe-in really there, I think. Back four, Joe?
Dennis Irwin, I believe we went for at left back.
Yep.
We did.
Again, hard to argue. I think it was Alex Ferguson who said he made one mistake on average every 10 years.
That's a pretty good record.
I mean, even into the early 2000s, he was in his mid to late 30s, and he was still keeping Phil Neville out the side. Something that only the late and the great Leighton Baines could do in his later years.
I do like Leighton Baines, actually.
Nice guy.
Although one of the worst haircuts in footballing history.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, he looks like a bob, and also his weird little moustache that he never quite shaved properly.
I remember that.
I feel like there are a lot worse footballing haircuts though. I mean, if you think about it.
Who was that fellow with the little pointy hair from the early 2000s? Taribo West.
Taribo West, yes. That was shocking.
What about Marwan Shamak?
Oh, he had like a puffer fish, didn't he, with the little spiky bit.
He had some sort of weird shiny stuff in his hair. It was strange.
What, hair gel?
A lot of hair gel.
In between it. But so then we went for we'll go then to right back. I'll come back to centre back in a minute for Lee Dixon. I mean, tough on between Gary Neville and Lee Dixon, but we'll come back to Gary in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Obviously, almost excluded him from the team because his punditry is so rubbish. But on balance, he was actually pretty decent. Formed that really meaty defensive line of Arsenal in the mid to late 2000s.
Is he disappeared? Quite a funny freeze frame, actually. He's stroking his beard quite kind of thought-provokingly. Be nice if he would come back, but maybe we should prep.
Should we press on?
We could press on with the 11 anyway, and reintroduce Joe when he actually returns.
Hello, so I'm back.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Hello.
Couldn't bring himself to give the centre back.
I was still going on about Dixon, but anyway, back on to Tony Adams. Tony Adams. Only player to captain a title-winning side in 3 different decades: 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
That's a good stat, isn't it?
Did a bit of time in prison, so we got him to that team in the following weeks.
That'd be nice, yeah.
To be fair to him, conquered his demons. Also did an extremely copy-like rendition of David Brent's dance whilst manager of Granada. About 2 years ago, we thought of the when he was training Granada. And then probably the toughest one was the other centre back, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I believe we went for Sol Campbell, who is Anton's favourite player. Third legend. A couple of other options really in there. I think we thought about. I think it was Pearcey. Do we think Pearcey, or was Pearcey going?
Pearcey, left back. Yap Stam was considered.
Yap Stam not there long enough really.
Martin Keown.
Martin Keown. Did you see him in the pub once, Anton?
I saw him in a pub in Oxford. Yeah. I couldn't bring myself to go and say hello. He is quite big, actually.
Yeah, I discount him. Also, he started on Ruud van Nistelrooy, so that's him out.
I do like Ruud.
So just Sol, really good player. Once said on Panorama, don't go to the Euros, you'll come back in a body bag. Not quite accurate, but.
Oh dear. In any case, it's a very strong back four.
It's very strong. It's no frills. It's very different from the back four we'll see in the other two teams in that
exactly.
Tony Adams was not a ball-playing defender.
No.
Dennis Irwin. Actually, Dennis Irwin was good with the set pieces, but yeah, it's more of a functional back four than you'll see.
No, Tony Adams is not a Pep Guardiola style player.
He's not John Stones, but then he doesn't. he just hoofs it and hoofs you into touch.
Yeah. Shearer reckons Tony Adams is the best centre half he ever played against.
Really?
Yeah, that's
it was very effective.
Damning indictment. Yeah. In any case, it's a good back four, isn't it?
Strong back four. So we come on to the midfield now. The midfield we went for, it was pretty formulaic, really, pretty expected. I went for Giggs at left mid, hard to argue with. 13 Premier League medals, obviously not all of which were in the 90s. 672 Man United appearances, 114 goals. Pretty solid.
It's a good record. He could not be in the side.
I think he scored. How many seasons was it he scored in a row in Durham? You should know this.
A lot. I think 30.
Thank you. It sounds about right.
Goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup, where he just made them all.
We've all seen the video, haven't we, about 1 million times. It's a stunning goal.
Yeah, I mean, not as many times as I've seen Dave Whelan tell me that he broke his leg in the FA Cup final, but we're on that sort of level. So hard to keep him out. Midfield, so we're going to right mid again, so then we're Beckham.
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard, 90s is hard to...
It's hard to
good.
argue against United players, isn't it, at this point?
Scored a fantastic goal against Wimbledon, 1996, from the halfway line.
Yeah.
So I was watching some clips of England from the late 90s last night, and I was watching him putting in crosses for Scholes and Andy Campos. And people forget how good his crossing was and his passing.
He was unbelievable.
People remember the free kicks. People don't really remember some of the other technical ability he had as well. So then we come on to the two centre mids, and this is where we got a little bit more difficult. So
more tricky,
two quite similar players here, so we might get torn to pieces for this. So we went for Roy Keane and we went for Patrick Vieira. Scholes was very much a consideration, but again, we'll come on to him.
Yeah, and then
in
the next decade.
Minutes. Paul Ince, also tempting, but I just find him so irritating. Actually, no.
You've only said that so he doesn't punch you in the face.
Yeah,
when we inevitably have him on the show.
When we have him on the show, or Thomas, who I saw play for Stoke recently. We beat them. All two of them kids. But both dominating midfielders. Vieira potentially a slightly better runner with the ball, but both extremely effective. Keane very good passer. But I think Keane's actually, people forget about how good a technical player Roy Keane was as well. Remember him, hoofing.
Yeah, his punditry career probably hasn't helped that reputation as well.
Well, he's a very tough character, but he doesn't take any nonsense, which is kind of... Yeah, I mean, I personally
player and captain.
I don't go mad for him, but again, I don't want him to hit me, so I'm not going to say anything offensive. Because I think he might hurt me quite a lot.
He could and would, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he'd like me. Which is fair enough, really. And then up front, really, again, so we'll go for Shearer. I mean, you can't go wrong with Big Al.
Shearer's the only one that's you can't really argue against that.
All-time top Premier League goal scorer. People forget as well how good he was at Blackburn. And actually scored goals for Southampton as well before that. People forget about that as well. People obviously remember his time. Certainly our generation remember his time at Newcastle. But
and he also had a couple of seasons before the Premier League started where he was banging goals as well. And
he
still scored the Premier League goals, which is just crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with, really. And he could do it all. He was good in the air. He was good with his feet. One of the best chesters of the ball I think I've ever seen. I mean... just his control in that region was just so good. And actually, again, people forget he scored a lot of bangers. It wasn't all just poachers' goals and headers. He did score a lot of well struck volleys and so on. So hard to argue with Shearer. Now the second strike a bit more difficult. I think we went for probably the most contentious pick in all three teams.
Yes,
for Robbie Fowler.
The list of options for this one was about 10 players long, wasn't it?
I mean, you got Andy Cole. You got Ian Wright, you got Les Ferdinand, you got Michael Owen, Dwight York,
Bergkamp.
I think Henri might say he's more for the next decade.
Yeah, Letitia as well.
I love Letitia. I've never seen a man move so little yet be so
good. Yeah.
He carried that Southampton, didn't he?
Our depth for the second striker role is probably twice as much as any other position combined. in this
In
team.
in any of the 11s actually.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was probably the hardest player to pick for all of them. I suppose that probably is why we went for Fowler, because we just couldn't decide.
So far, 163 goals. Would have been a good foil alongside Shearer.
Ian Wright almost got in there as well.
Got that
Yeah,
left
I was pushing for Big Les, QPR legend, but wouldn't have it.
Down the hoops. Sorry,
German State has left the podcast.
for the second time.
for the second time.
You wait till I put Charlie Austin in the 2010 team. Him and
Alongside Ollie
Alisson,
McBurney.
I think he's a good player, right? Leave it be. Only down marks against Fowler. I mean, Fowler again, 263 goals, obviously not all of which were in the 90s, but I think the majority of which were. Played for 4, 5, 6 years towards the top end, whereas Owen obviously was from really 97 onwards. However, big mark against Fowler's then for me was he was outscored, but the 3 years that Michael Owen was sort of, with him, he did outscore him. So
yeah, it's a toughie. You're right. It's a contentious pick.
we're gonna go for Fowler. So that really is our 9.
And also, Rob's named after him, so we kind of had to.
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like, again, it's another little ploy just to get him on the podcast.
Haven't you got
exactly.
Haven't you got a shirt of his, Rob?
Yeah, I've got a signed shirt right behind me. It looks over me when I don't sleep. It's just...
So he's a bit like your guardian angel, but
Sleepy.
sleepy.
As
Yes,
Michael Owen
exactly,
calls his night terrors, and that's just not what you want.
Yeah.
So that's the 90s.
That's a bloody good
Also,
11,
other big mark against Owen was that him and Alan don't get on very well anymore.
No, we couldn't play those two together because they hate each other.
I feel like it goes without saying that this is following a 4-4-2, as the majority of the teams.
Oh yeah,
in
big
that-
man,
in
little
that
man.
did.
Too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the 90s. Does someone
Good.
else want to do the 2000s?
Yeah, Hugh or Rob, do you want to take us through the 2000s? Maybe Duzzer?
I don't know if I've got as many stats as Joe has, but I'll.
Oh,
That
well,
surprises me, actually, mate.
So I've got some for here as well. Don't worry.
Feel free to dive in as I run through the 2000 to 2010. So we've switched up the formation for this one. We've gone for a 4-3-3 as sort of this was the time where everyone was moving on to sort of more attacking football, I think. In goal, Petr Cech. Not too much competition in this. I think he came in 2004, 2005.
2004.
That Chelsea team under Mourinho, they had an insane home record and clean sheet record, I seem to remember.
People forget as well that before his injury with Stephen Hunt in 06, when he got his head injury, he was even better, I think, before that than he was after.
What is astonishing about Cech is that he was in the PFA team of the year twice, 2004 when he arrived, and then again in 2013. That is astonishing longevity.
Another thing people forget is that he actually replaced a very good goalkeeper in Carlo Cudicini.
Yeah.
Cudicini was, in my opinion, a really, really underrated keeper. So to actually come in, force him out, and basically to remain a first-choice goalkeeper for 13, 14 years? Really remarkable.
He actually has the most clean sheets of the decade just gone. So I know.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
I'm not sure we have him in the 2010s team.
No, we don't, but we could.
It's something to consider. So then, moving on to
go for it, Hugh.
The defence. We have pretty much the England back four for this. So Neville and Cole.
Highly successful team, that England side.
Exactly. You got Neville and Cole as the fullbacks. Obviously, Gary Neville arguably could have been in the 90s squad. Good, solid, dependable player. I don't think there was a plethora of right-back options that we could think
Young?
of.
No.
Absolutely not.
Nico Richards? No.
So we have plumped for Gary.
Stephen Carr?
We're not having Stephen Carr.
Ashley Cole, arguably the greatest.
Yeah, Cashley.
People forget about his attacking ability, his shooting, particularly when he shot that intern with that.
He's such a bastard. Well, we had to pick Cole, but equally left back was tough because Patrice Evra and even players like Gael Clichy played almost 350 times in the Premier League.
Absolutely.
But
I don't think I've seen anyone handle Ronaldo better than Cole did every time they played against each other.
Well, Cole had that air of being a bit of a knob about, a lot of a knob about him, which definitely helped in that regard.
We're not getting him on the show, are we?
No. Unless he becomes in the criminals 11 over the course of the next couple of weeks, which is possible.
You never know. So centre backs, Terry and Ferdinand. Not too much argument here. I think Vidic was another option, but too late. I think he joined in 2006 along with Evra. Sol Campbell again, but he was sort of split between the last two decades. So Terry and Ferdinand, two superb centre backs, complemented each other. I think Terry was your bruiser, and Ferdinand was more of your Pep Guardiola type.
Your Rolls Royce of a defender.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The only thing is, I would say about this is if we work on some of our criterion from the last decade, they don't get on either. So a bit like Michael and Al.
Yeah. Well, at least we've not fitted Wayne Bridge at left back.
Midfield three, whilst historically they didn't seem to play very well for England, are Scholes, Gerrard and Lampard. Could they play together? Well, maybe if they played in the three and not put Scholes on the left, but we'll never know. But three greatest, certainly English midfielders to ever play in the Premier League.
Hard to argue.
Another suggestion. He was brilliant, but he was only there, I think, five seasons. So gone for those three. And then up front, Ronaldo on the right, brilliant player when he was at United. Unbelievable. So 42 goals one year, I think, of which 30 odd were in the league. Henry sort of cutting in from the left-hand side. Most foreign goals, I think, in the Premier League. Or
not anymore. Aguero's gone past him.
Aguero's just gone past him, yeah.
But his goals game ratio is ridiculous. I think it's 175 in 250 odd.
And assists with Omri as well.
And you got that as well with Bergkamp, that partnership. And then Wayne Rooney up top. I think people forget with Rooney, because I realised the other day he's actually older than Ronaldo, but people forget how good he was back in the day. Yeah. I think, or they might be the same age, but they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
He was quality.
Rooney was world class.
2002.
I mean, him and Antonio Valencia, I think it was in 09, 010. I think it was Valencia coming in from the right, putting balls onto Rooney's head was just such an effective weapon for United.
And Ronaldo and Rooney worked so well together at United. When you had that front four with Tevez and Giggs.
Yeah.
Or Berbatov after that as well.
There were some big names left out, though, weren't there, with some of those ones you mentioned. I mean, I was watching, as I think I said to you, chaps, the other day, Gary Neville's Soccer Box, which I would recommend. Rooney was on it, and he said the player that he enjoyed playing with most was actually Carlos Tevez.
Interesting. Very hard work.
Yeah, he just said that they knew telepathically where the other one would be, and he would drop and Rooney would go, and vice versa.
Well, in that 2018 that United that won the Champions League, they had the Ronaldo and Tevez and Rooney, and they'd all sort of interchanged. So one would go up top, one would drop to the right. It was mesmerising football when it was played, and I think
they were world class.
Yeah, if you think about the work rates of Rooney and Tevez, if you put them in the same team together.
Oh, yeah, like honestly, they were just stunning, and some big names as well, like Van Nistelrooy left out. You know, he was in and around that side, and just an unbelievable player. Robin van Persie, Didier Drogba, all big names could have been in there, but
Drogba was one of my favorites, I think, growing up.
I completely agree with you.
Roque Santa Cruz.
For God's sake.
Maybe
just off the list.
I just think I hate Chelsea with quite a fiery passion. But Drogba was just so good to watch. Yeah. And he scored some of the biggest goals, like Champions League finals and things. You just knew he would score.
Well, his Wembley records is ridiculous. I think he scored in all but one final that he's been in, or something ridiculous like that at Wembley.
Yeah. He was unbelievable. Anyway, that's the 11. That is a stunning side. Midfield 3 kind of picked itself. Front 3 almost did.
That is good size.
Rob, I reckon you go ahead with the 2010s.
Yes. Now, I think it goes without saying that this is the area that we have the most knowledge with. But at the same time, probably a little bit of recency bias and also a lot more personal judgment. Because these are players that we've watched a lot more. We're going to have grown attached to them. I say we all support different teams. There are 3 different teams in here generally, if Joe's claiming to be a Man United fan and not QPR fan.
Or an Exeter City fan.
Exactly, yeah. Changes with the wind, I hear. But in terms of a Premier League discussion, there are 3 different teams in here: Liverpool, Spurs, and United. And obviously, the other thing that kind of carries on with the past 2 is that you can kind of see if they played into the next decade and kind of carry on that legacy a little bit. Yeah. Which I guess isn't technically the way it should be done, but you do kind of consider that. So a couple of players, particularly from the Liverpool team, that have been playing really well in the past couple of seasons, we might have overlooked because they haven't quite done enough in our eyes.
Not reached the right status yet, quite.
Exactly. So for goalkeeper, I think we went for De Gea, but although after the discussion about Petr Cech, then there is now an argument for putting him in.
I just think De Gea, over the course of the last 10 years, or best part of 10 years, I think he came in, it must have been about 2012, was it?
2011, I think, is his first season.
2011. So I just think that Cech was obviously on the way down, probably from about, 2013, 2014. Probably just
that was his last world-class season.
So I just think he's had more of a decade of top-class performances than Cech.
I think also with De Gea, you've got to realise that the United defence that he's in front of has been woeful for a lot of this decade.
Wait, you're saying that Phil Jones isn't good?
Well, him and Smalling, you could argue they're the future of English football.
To be fair, at one point though, he was behind a defence that did have Johnny Evans in it, so
But Petr Cech, obviously, at the start of the 2010s had John Terry Steele, Ricardo Carvalho. They had a good.
Yeah, for sure. It's worth taking into account. I think De Gea, is probably the right shout. He had a pretty rough ride at the start when him and Lindegaard was battling it out for ages, and then came good in a period where United were about to go through transition, and is still perceived to be world class. So I don't know. I think he's probably the right shout.
Yeah, I think he's the man.
I agree. Yeah, and then in terms of Hugo Lloris was also thrown in the hat. World Cup winner.
World Cup winner, but Premier League exploits less good.
On his day,
I don't know. I think people are forgetting now. I think people are forgetting with Lloris that he's had maybe one and a half bad seasons as he obviously gets older. I think people forget how good he was.
Well, I agree. As a Spurs fan, I'm trying to sort of refrain from excess bias. I think I hate to say on his day he was world class because I sound a bit too much like Robbie Savage. He is a seriously, he's a seriously good keeper, and importantly he's a modern keeper. He's a sweeper. He's a shot stopper. He's not like of massive stature. He's not intimidating like a Cech or a Schmeichel, but he's a seriously good keeper.
A shot stopper, a bit like Fabian Barthez.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But slightly less crazy.
He's French as well.
Anyway, Rob, move us on.
And then for the defence, unlike the other 2 teams, we were absolutely overloaded with choices, and the only player that we wholeheartedly agreed on was Vincent Kompany at the centre half position.
Correct.
For what he's done for City throughout the season. Even last season, as he's getting on, he still scored arguably the title-winning
goal. Yeah,
against Leicester.
He was actually a midfielder. He used to play midfielder for Anderlecht, I think. Yeah.
He played for Hamburg before.
He's back at Anderlecht now, isn't he? Is Anderlecht? He's back that much. He was briefly manager, and then he was.
I think he's player manager.
But then he stepped back.
Didn't he have it then removed from him or something? Because he was.
He stepped down because he didn't win in like the first 7 games or something. So he stepped down. And then the other positions, we had at least 5 players we were trying to fit in.
Yeah.
The other centre half, we went for Vidic, as mainly, I think, because of the sort of longevity of him.
Yeah.
Like,
He's just so good. So good.
yeah, I mean, you could put Van Dijk next to him, but I feel like that's maybe a little bit of a cop-out in the heavy recency bias. Good player, but Vidic was there.
Oh, Van Dijk's obviously world class, but Vidic is definitely more of a Premier League legend.
Yeah, and surprisingly, as a Liverpool fan, you'd have thought I would be pushing for.
Yeah,
a
you've been quite gracious in this, Rob.
Yeah, I was expecting Dejan Lovren, Adam Lallana,
I mean, Dejan Lovren is the self-proclaimed best centre half.
Fabio Aurelio at left back, but
John Flanagan,
Desaina.
He was in the World Cup, so yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Ryan Skirtle.
No, oh god. No, but in seriousness, Rob, you're right. Vidic won 5 Premier League titles. They won the Champions League. Was captain until we left in 2015 or 2014? He was epic.
Yeah, exactly. And then right back, we mentioned earlier about having perhaps a more attacking right back as the games developed, which might point towards Kyle Walker or Trent Alexander-Arnold, but we actually went for Branislav Ivanovic.
Yeah, Branislav Ivanovic was epic.
He's really, really good. But also, if you talk about attacking, he wasn't, flying wing back, full back of the Bundesliga. But he could still score so many important goals.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Him and Zabaleta, that sort of longevity, didn't they? In the Premier.
Yeah.
Zabaleta still playing? Is it still at West Ham?
He's still at West Ham, I think, but he doesn't start anymore. Only
the playing
occasionally.
part.
Do you know that Zabaleta made the most tackles over this decade? It's a good stat.
Did he?
That's a great stat.
Thank you, Hugh.
No worries.
Ivanovic also, I was looking him up earlier. I didn't realise how long he was at Chelsea. He arrived in 2008.
Yeah, it's like nine
and
years.
He left in 2017 and made almost 400 appearances. They won 3 Premier League titles, Champions League, Europa League.
Didn't he score the winning goal in the Champions League semi-final or something, or maybe the Europa League semi-final?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Hard to know.
He scored so many important goals, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Sort of tarred a little bit by the fact that his final season was dreadful. Which is a shame, really, because it's one season too far for him. But other than that, exceptional.
He's still playing at Zenit, I think.
Is he?
Yes, yeah. He also got bitten by Luis Suarez.
He did, actually. Maybe that.
I think it's him and Giorgio Chiellini. Who was the brother he bit when he was at Ajax? Anyone remember that?
Oh.
I don't remember that one, but I remember Chiellini and...
We'd have to assume it's another world-class defender. That seems to be what he goes for.
We can say that
Their
another
taste
11.
Nice.
So yeah,
the tastiest 11?
he can taste the anticipation.
Anyway, that's the back four, Rob. That's an incredible back.
We didn't touch on the left back.
Oh, of course you haven't.
The left back, we went for Azpilicueta, who that's maybe not his normal position, but he has played left back before.
He did.
Definitely in recent time.
Wasn't he pushed into there to replace an ageing Ashley Cole?
It could well have been.
Because I think he's played at Chelsea. He's had seasons where he's played all 3: centre back, left back, and right back.
Yeah.
He started off when he came as more of a left back in terms of where they put him, and then he moved to centre back when the back 3 under Conte, when they had Victor Moses bombing up on the wing, and now he's more of a right back.
Yeah.
How did Antonio Conte? I mean, this is why I think Antonio Conte must be the greatest manager of all time. In that him or Brian Clough, in that he made Victor Moses look absolutely just brilliant.
Victor Moses was really weirdly world class for quite a little while.
Victor Moses was always underrated. He was good at, was it Wigan? I think he was very good. He didn't get a chance. He went to a couple of. I mean, the fact that he went to clubs like Stoke and things. Yeah, he was at Liverpool. Underrated player, I thought.
He's still under Conte, isn't he?
He's still at.
He plays for Inter Milan on
Does
loan.
he?
Yeah. So he's playing Conte still.
Along with Ashley Young and Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Christian Eriksen.
And Sanchez.
And Alexis Sanchez.
Basically an old Premier League team.
I mean, he's still under contract at Chelsea. Victor Moses is still under contract at Chelsea. He's just been on loan 5 different times.
I mean, half the Premier League's on loan from Chelsea now.
Oh yeah, not wrong. Not wrong.
Right, Rob, midfield.
Midfield, we've gone for the birthday boy himself, N'Golo Kante.
Happy birthday.
Fairly self-explanatory, I think. Obviously,
Yeah.
Leicester instrumental in their title win. And then
Yeah,
went to
I
Chelsea.
think we had to pick him. I mean, he only came to Leicester in 2015, so that's halfway through the decade, but then won the title, moved to Chelsea, won the title, and even under Sarri making him into some sort of attacking midfielder, he still adapted, and
I
he's
just
just a world-class player.
thought it was genius from Sarri to take the world's best defensive midfielder and play him on the right. You know, almost comparable with Sven when he tried playing Paul Scholes as a left winger. You know, it takes real vision to take someone brilliant and move them somewhere where they're rubbish.
Yeah, the point is, though, Joe, Sarri couldn't see because he had 40 fags in his mouth at once.
Was it him who used to smoke? He used to smoke 70 cigarettes a day?
Yeah, I think at least,
Yeah.
and also used to do it on the pitch.
Well, that's the thing. Now they've banned smoking. You now just choose the tobacco instead.
God,
How is
it is
it
disgusting.
In fairness, though, he does look pretty good for a guy that's 28. You know, cigarette smoking doesn't do you any harm.
He
You
looks
know.
appalling.
Yeah. Also, Kante, one of a couple of players to win the title with 2 different teams in consecutive seasons, along with Mark Schwarzer.
Yeah, Marshall.
Mark Schwarzer.
Why isn't he in our team?
That's a good question, actually.
I want to have another chat one day where we talk about that great little period of goalkeepers, where you know your Schwarzers, your Jaskalainens, your Brad Friedels.
Tim Howard.
But that's for another day.
Brad
It's,
Pitt.
What a little card race that was.
Rob, couple more midfielders.
We've gone for Kevin De Bruyne and Yaya Toure, who are both
Nice.
City players, but obviously, did they ever play together? Yaya Toure?
No, I don't think they did.
No, I
I
don't
don't think
no.
there was any overlap there.
Maybe
Well,
at the very late end of
Yeah,
Yeah.
after the birthday
I think they did.
cake,
Roy-
Toure was never the same after that.
the birthday cake.
Brian came in 2015, so I don't know when Torre left.
Toure left in 2017, I think, or 2018, maybe.
Yeah, basically after they forgot his birthday, he was never the same player again.
So they must have played together for one or 2 seasons.
Because I'm sure Toure was there under Guardiola when he first came, but I don't think Guardiola wanted him, so he got rid of him. I think he went to Olympiacos or something. He went to Greece, I think, for a bit.
I think you're right. I think you played
There
under
was talks of
Guardiola.
him going to like West Ham. I think there was even talk of him going to United at one point. There was, yeah. He ended up at like Limassol or AEK or Olympiacos or something like that.
Anyway, yeah.
But very good free kick record for as well.
I think you're right. He's unbelievable. Like, De Bruyne speaks for himself, I think. He's arguably the best midfielder in the world.
62 assists already, only 18
Yeah.
behind David Beckham. But interestingly enough, 22 behind James Milner.
What a player. I love James Milner.
Another man I desperately tried to shoehorn into this 11.
Yeah. You wanted to be left back, though, Rob.
Left back, yeah. Yeah, again, he has played left back. He's played pretty much all across the pitch.
He has. I
He
remember
hasn't
he
played.
was at was it at Leeds United in Newcastle, and he's been playing it's like a flying right winger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Villa.
Yeah, he was Villa, yeah.
Villa, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a brilliant midfield three. Yaya Toure was...
Gareth Barry and James Milner at Aston Villa.
Oh, my...
Olaf
hate Gareth
Melberg,
Barry.
centre back. What a day.
That's twice he's come up in this podcast.
Who?
Gareth Barry.
Well, I don't. I'll be shoehorning Olaf Melberg a lot into the conceding. Might try and mention him once every podcast. You know.
I think I'm still a bit salty that there's no David Silva.
I'm with you, Hugh.
yes.
I think we'd have been hard. We couldn't really replace any of the others. That's the thing. I mean, Kante we sort of wanted not only because he's epic and he's world class, but we just didn't want three midfielders from City. Like, also, it would have had ridiculous lack of balance. I imagine De Bruyne, Toure, and Silva as a midfield three. It'd just be pointless.
Yeah.
Also, I just think that the three guys you got there, Toure, Kante, and De Bruyne, all play different roles. They all do different things.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Silva is more similar to De
Yeah.
Bruyne than... I know he plays a little bit more in the space, a little bit more in between in the striker and the midfield, but I think De Bruyne could do that. Whereas I don't think Silva could do what Kante does, say, for example. I don't think Toure does.
Yeah.
So I think that gives a bit of balance. And also it spreads it out. Though. It's good to have some players from early in the decade as well, not just have people.
Yeah.
I suppose Silva's been there for a while, to be fair, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think if you're playing the three, you've got to have your defensive, your box to box, and then your sort of attacking creative player.
Yeah.
And we've got all three of those.
We have.
Agreed.
You've got to praise us for that, really.
I think you have. Yeah, I think rightly so.
Yeah.
Rob, hit us
Similarly,
with the front three.
following through for the front three, we're obviously playing 4-3-3, so we've got two wingers and a striker. So we've tried to actually pick players that can play on the wing and not do a Garth Crooks special, just play players out of position.
The crux of the matter is,
We'll have him on. We're definitely having him on one week. I'd love to have him on.
what, the mole man?
Oh, come
He
on.
does look like a mole. Come on.
I'm not having that. He's a cracking chap.
He won't be on there.
I still remember him defending Adebayor for running the whole length of the pitch and celebrating in front of the Arsenal fans. I've never been so filled with rage watching final score ever.
I do like his cardigans though.
Yeah, apparently he's. I've got a mate from Stoke who, Dan, he doesn't like Garth Crooks. And Garth Crooks is he's around Stoke way. Apparently he had elocution lessons so he could pretend, basically, so he could hide his Stoke accent.
I've met him.
Do you want to fact check that, Joe?
I better, I don't want to get sued.
I saw him drop his daughter off at uni when I was at Warwick.
Really?
Yeah.
His son was in the year above me at uni.
Say hi, but he ran off quickly. Yeah, surprising turn of
When you were running towards him with a crib sheet full of facts,
yeah.
it's not a huge surprise as he decided to flee.
To say that
He was
team of the
born.
week you did back in.
He was born in 1958 in Stoke-on-Trent. So whether he had elocution lessons, I don't know. But my mate,
That's still speculation, but I reckon
has a big gripe about that. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got sidetracked again.
Again, yeah, it's quite easy actually. Happening quite a lot, isn't it, in this podcast? But it makes for all good fun.
We're up to nearly an hour now. The 20-minute plan has gone out the window.
We'll probably have to divide this episode in half. Realistically,
we can edit it.
That's
down.
I'll do it out.
Yeah.
We'll charge 19p for it on iTunes. Job done.
There we go. So
go on then, Rob. Hit us.
We've got Aguero down the middle, flanked by Sterling and Hazard. Now, again, there was a little bit of contentious players. We wanted just one out-and-out striker.
I want RVP. Still want RVP.
Yeah, RVP. I would like to go for Suarez, but arguably wouldn't get on very well with Ivanovic because they've had the incident already.
Oh, he fits him. Yeah.
If you want to put that in,
like a Chinese bit.
Chinese.
What was that? Oh, well, very good. Yes.
Well, listen, Branislav Ivanovic is not a succulent Chinese meal.
I still maintain on his day, Suarez was one of the most talented strikers.
I think
in the Premier League scene.
On his day, I think he was probably the best of three. I think particularly against Norwich, we seemed to have a real penchant for scoring well.
He loved it, yeah.
For my argument about RVP, he
13 and 5.
basically, I don't think any striker in the last 10 years has had an impact on a single campaign the same way that Robin van Persie dragged United to that title in whatever it was, 2013?
2013, I think it would have been, yeah.
I don't think any striker has done that. I mean, Aguero scores, he accumulates. He's obviously world class. He accumulates goals, but I don't think he's had quite the same individual.
I think the thing to know about Aguero, I mean, I still think Aguero is probably just about the right shout, but the thing to note on him is that he's been playing with one of the best midfield threes in the world for the last 5 years, and Robin van Persie was playing, particularly in the latter years at Arsenal, with absolute turds. Yeah, and then moving on to United, probably have Tom Cleverley in behind him. It's not quite the same as De Bruyne.
Yeah, because I still think about that goal against Aston Villa. I think it was Rooney
over his corner,
over his shoulder. Bash.
Oh, yeah.
I think for this exercise, Van Persie, I don't think he was around in the 2010s for particularly long, whereas Aguero in City in 2010, and there's been
those unfortunate players. I was talking to another one, mates, an Arsenal fan, saying that they always knew Robin van Persie was class. He just couldn't stay fit long enough, and if he'd stayed fit for there's a couple of years, maybe 2010, 2011 as well, where. Because he was class for Arsenal for about 2 seasons. If he'd maybe been a fit just a couple of seasons longer and scored maybe another 30 or 40 goals, then maybe you'd put him in here.
Yeah.
But fair play, I can't. Yeah, it's hard to argue with Aguero.
Aguero.
Yeah, good chap as well, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then Sterling on one wing. Obviously, again, another City player. But I mean, given
QPR Academy, I'll have you know.
Yeah.
Another gift community of Queen's Park Rangers.
I think though, Rob, you're right in that City are going to well, not necessarily completely dominate this 11, but they're going to be very heavily featured, aren't they? Naturally.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And obviously he was at Liverpool, arguably the worst of the front three in their good seasons, alongside Sturridge and Suarez, but still,
like, had a decent
Yeah.
record there.
To be fair, he kept Fabio Barini out of the team. That's no mean feat.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and Ricky
Mario-
Lambert,
And Mario Balotelli.
Balotelli.
Christian
Why did they sign all those players?
I
Desperation.
didn't realise the other
They played Stephen Corker up front one game.
Yeah, he was on loan from us.
I didn't realise the other day. So Ricky Lambert has 11 England caps, which is ridiculous.
Does he?
That's more than Matt Le Tissier and
More than
players like
Charlie
that.
Austin. That's more than Stan Bowles, I think, as well. Ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think Sterling's a right pick anyway, particularly in the
Yeah,
last few seasons. He's come on leaps and bounds.
77 goals and 44 assists in basically what? Half a decade nearly.
He's only 25 as well.
77 goals.
Yeah.
You know, if he carries on the
People
rate
seem
he's
to
at,
forget
he's looking at 130, 140 goals and, you know, getting on for 100 assists. You can't argue with that.
As a winger, is like an
Yeah,
incredible.
it's no
Yeah.
mean feat. He's a good player. Gets a lot of crap as well, which is, you know, not
He's
all
matured
just.
quite nice, isn't he? To be fair, I used to hate him when he first came. I thought he was
He was very cocky, wasn't he?
very cocky, a bit of a prima donna. I found, I didn't warm to him at all, but I have to say I've been very impressed in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, the way he's stood up with crap from papers like The Sun and so on. So
Yeah,
fair play.
agreed. I agree.
Absolutely.
And then Hazard.
Yeah.
Ah, now.
It's kind of the other end of the scale, isn't it? It's
Go on then, Rob. Yeah.
he's a player that's obviously now left the Premier League. So he similar to, I don't know, your argument for RVP, he was dragging that Chelsea team through in his last couple of seasons and then just left to go to Real Madrid. Arguably irreplaceable in that Chelsea team.
Yeah.
I agree. I think for me it was a toss-up between him and Bale, but I think Bale left too early in the decade to be considered.
Yeah, I think
Bale's
can't argue that Hazard is obviously, as Darren says, just very, very good. 85 goals, 54 assists, and he won one player of the season. You can't argue with that. But I just think on his day, Bale was a better player. If you remember AVB when he was at Spurs, he kept his job because Bale. There was a period in that thing where Bale every week almost was scoring some sort of long range screamer. Hazard cannot do that. He just couldn't do it. He could not do that. Every week.
Hazard scored a lot of good solo goals though.
He did, but the point is,
Yeah.
I find he's very hot and cold. And I think that's why he's struggling at Real Madrid. Real Madrid, you have to be absolutely relentless. So you have to, you Ronaldo, even Benzema just scores week after week after week. Hazard yet hasn't done that.
He's also
I don't know.
a bit too much, apparently.
He has. I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, he's in the top one or two really. I personally would have Bale.
I think possibly another argument against Hazard that we almost did was that just to play someone like Suarez out wide or put RVP there instead.
Suarez I think inevitable by, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think Hazard was in the Premier League from 2012 to 19. They won the league twice. He was PFA Team of the Year 4 times. Almost 100 goals, over 50 assists. It's an unbelievable record. Particularly, even when, like we say, sometimes that Chelsea team were kind of going through, like they won the league obviously in 2016, but 2015. But then, it's like
The only markers against Hazard is he could go cold. There was a season where he scored 4 goals.
That's the major criticism against him, isn't there?
And he could almost decide whether he wanted to turn up or not, which is. I mean, he can't. It's difficult. I don't want to criticise him because he is so good. Yeah.
Anyway,
one last player I do want to throw into the scene as we're having this discussion about Eden Hazard in the left wing position. Sadio Mane. He was at Southampton. He had 2 very good seasons at Southampton, and now playing.
Yeah. Now one of the best wingers in the world.
Very good player.
I love Sadio Mane.
For me,
Obviously.
not quite as much as the other two.
It's almost as if we kind of touched on it earlier. Perhaps it's come a little bit too late.
I think
the next couple of seasons.
Yeah.
He will.
If he'd had 2 more seasons at Liverpool, he'd be in there straight in.
My player of the season this year has to be Mane. So
Agreed.
but in this team,
He
this
can
team
only
not.
score when he's playing near the coast, can't he? So
Yeah.
80% of his goals within 2 miles of the coast or something. That's
Knowledge, outstanding knowledge.
One of my favourites.
Pretending he doesn't actually know, but he does know.
He knows.
I think it's 80%. It's something like that.
He'll come back to us later on that one, I'm sure.
Okay.
All right, well, that's that's 311, isn't it? That is.
Yeah.
311s. Right, so let's quickly then, let's thrash out who wins. Now,
Let's thrash out who's going to win. Yeah.
for me, I would have to say 2000 to 2010.
Middle of that.
And I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you for why. Midfield 3, best 3 midfielders in the Premier League, in my opinion. You've got a passer there. You've got a box-to-box midfielder. The only downside is you wouldn't say any of them were a defensive midfielder in the way, just like Kante or Vieira. Fair enough.
Yeah.
A couple of other things to consider. Just obviously it's not necessarily rated to Premier League, but just out of interest. In the 2010s, there were 2 English winners of the Champions League, Chelsea and of course Liverpool, and 3 runners-up. In the 1990s, there was 1 winner, Man United, in '98, and no runners-up. And in the 2000s, there were 2 winners, Liverpool again in '05, I think it was, and United in '08, and there were 4 runners-up. So English teams were the most successful in Europe in the 2010s. Now, how relatable it is to the Premier League, I just find it interesting.
I know what you're
think
saying.
the Premier League was at its strongest in that period. Now, I can't look past that midfield 3 really. You've also got in there possibly the greatest player of all time, or certainly in the top 3 or 4 greatest players of all time, Ronaldo. You've got the best striker in the Premier League of all time, Henry. You've got the best English striker probably, well, either him or Shearer in Rooney. It's hard to look past to me. Really, it's hard to look past to me.
What do you two think, Hugh and Rob?
I'm of a very similar opinion, I think. If I were to rank them, probably 2000 to 2010 on top. The most recent decade, second, and then 92 to 99, third. I think the Premier League really kicked on around the turn of the century.
Yeah.
Often when you see a lot of interviews, people credit Arsene Wenger with changing the way that training was done in the UK, and how his team, his Arsenal Invincibles, sort of modernised the UK game, or the English game, and I think that rings true to a certain extent. Obviously the 90s team isn't bad. It's got some world-class players and some of the Premier League's greatest ever players, but fitness-wise, and the fact that there are more foreign players and therefore a greter pool of talent.
Well, you say that. It's a very interesting point that here on the foreign players, because I was going to say that exact same thing myself. But if actually you look at our 2010 team, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are English players.
In which team? In the middle
2010.
The one that you're claiming is the best team of the 3.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm just making a point that obviously the standard did improve because of foreign players. But interesting enough, we've still gone for 8 out of 10 English players.
I guess that was quite a sort of transitional period in terms of foreign players coming over to the Premier League. I think these days, this last decade, your team is predominantly foreign, whereas then it was kind of more of a mixture, wasn't it?
Yeah, and actually, if you look at our team, so we had 8 out of 10 for 1990 to 2000, 8 out of 10 for 2010, and we had 1 out of 10 in 2020.
Which position do you keep forgetting, Jay? There's 11 people.
Yeah, I was going to say.
8 out of 11. Sorry. 8 out of 11. 8 out of 11. 1 out of 11 for 2010 to 2020.
It's good point.
So hang on. So we've got 1. So 2. Is it 2 votes?
2 votes for that. Rob?
Well, I agree with the fact that obviously the 2000s and then through that decade was when it sort of developed quite a lot. Mourinho was credited with bringing the 4-3-3 in to combat Wenger's 4-4-2, and that led to the development of that. But I think for me, the 1990s, I'm going to kind of rule it out mostly on the fact that I don't really have any recollection of it. So I don't want to I don't want to say that.
I'm with you on that, Rob. I think there's some world-class players that we are told were unbelievable.
Yes.
But only probably about half of them stretched into our kind of period of really enjoying football.
Yeah. And then out the other two, I think for me, partially just to play devil's advocate here, just to create some debate here and not just make a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
I think that the 2010 team, if you take it in terms of the sort of flexibility and the adaptability of that team, a lot of those players can play multiple roles. And you've got to kind of look at it as an actual cohesive team. I think that might stand a chance. And now the other interesting thing is obviously how the Premier League has developed in terms of refereeing and everything like that. Whether the defensive style of John Terry and Rio Ferdinand would actually
it's a very valid point, actually.
Would actually be able to keep up with, I don't know, I guess you would say a new style of forward.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. I think it's something that was raised a little bit on these latest Match of the Day kind of debate shows where they were saying that obviously they're always going to be contention about this, but like for instance, like Shearer scored 260 Premier League goals, world class, obviously unbelievable player, but like how you've got to wonder how many of those goals might have been ruled out by this and that these days.
I think I would argue in opposite direction of that is how many. So in the 90s, most forward lines play 4-4-2, big man, little man up top. How many world class big target men style, not even target men, but sort of big man centre forwards are there? And can defenders still deal with them? I'll take, for example, Diego Costa, who came in for 3 or 4 seasons, bullied defenders. Defenders really, really struggled with him. I'm just wondering, nowadays, if you were to have more players like your Shearers, like your Andy Coles, actually, because they're a bit of a dying breed in the UK, could they, that proper out-and-out box, penalty box centre forward, could that actually be very problematic for defenders?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think you're possibly right. Particularly the cleverest ones.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not so much talking about players like Kevin Davis. More Andy Cole. That kind of the sort of the big men of the 90s. Towering headers, lots of hold up play, but also had that technical ability as well. Which they weren't just lump it up, elbow the defender in the head and head it down. There was a bit more to their game than that.
Yeah.
But interesting.
What were you going to say there, Hugh? Sorry, before we go for mine.
Another issue that I wanted to raise is I've got visions of Ronaldo in his prime at United just tearing past Aspilicueta. I think he's great, but I think we're trying to shoehorn him in a bit at left back. I can see Ronaldo giving him a time.
That's potentially true.
Again, on the other side, I can't remember who did we have for left mid. Was it Henry?
Henry, yeah.
I can see him cutting it. I don't know. I just think comparatively against other.
I don't know.
I think as well. I always think maybe against 2000's team is we talk about Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, best midfield trio, but they didn't ever work for England, ever.
No.
They have worked.
Can't they play together, Gerrard and Lampard? When it goes on for 8 years, you have to conclude the answer is no. Both of them wanted to go. But maybe Gerrard in his later years, actually, maybe a Gerrard from the 2010-2020, that Gerrard who was more willing to sit back and ping the balls around. Maybe he, actually, in that team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But we'll have to go what we've got. Mr. Elf.
Me. I was really torn. I love the latest Premier League 11. I think it's superb. For me, what actually swings it in favour of 2000 to 2010 is not the midfield three, it's the front three.
Yeah.
And for me, rather than visions of Ronaldo, it's Henry. And I think almost on their own, that front three could probably tear apart the best defence of any era. And I think that's why I'd have to go for that side. I do love the latest side. I think Kevin De Bruyne is probably the best midfielder anywhere on that list, actually. That's probably quite contentious, but I just think he is complete. Yeah. He is the complete midfielder. But I just think, again, like, Aguero, I think, is one of the greatest strikers of the Premier League era, but as Arden Sterling versus Ronaldo and Henry, you know who you're picking every single time. The back four, I actually like a little bit more of the latest one, actually.
Interesting.
And I think Company was extremely versatile, and I think Vidic was just an absolute warrior. I know John Terry was too.
Azpilicueta, I don't think is as good as Cole, and I don't think necessarily Ivanovic is as good as prime Gary Neville.
I think the left back position's harder. I really rated Ivanovic. I think I don't know. I think Azpilicueta could actually do a decent job. I think.
Oh yeah. No,
defensively, he is still very, very, very good. And I don't know. I think if actually in terms of dogged defensiveness, any of the people who were considered for that 11, he's one of the ones who I think probably could do a job on Henry or Ronaldo on his day, just because he is an incredibly intelligent defender. Yeah. But I think it's the 2000 to 2010, and I suppose that does swing it in that one's favour.
Well, obviously the other thing in that the 2000-2010 team, how many of those players were a captain of their club at some point?
So yeah, it's a great point.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
If not all of them.
In fact, maybe Ashley Cole, was he?
No, don't think he was.
I don't think Ronaldo.
Czech, I don't think was he?
Ronaldo wouldn't have been at United, but again, obviously he's gone on to be. And
Scholes, I don't think was regularly, was he?
I think
it's a good point, Rob.
For a bit.
I think Czech captain probably for a little while.
I think did he captain Arsenal for a bit?
He's captained Arsenal.
Did he?
Yeah.
Crikey.
But I suppose that's that. I think we're largely decided. I liked your devil's advocate.
Let's wrap up this set.
Okay, well, that concludes the main section of the show, / debate / again, collection of random footballing musings. The 2000 to 2010-11 comes out on top. Just to repeat the 11 again, for the die-hard football fans, we've got Petr Cech in goal, Gary Neville, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Ashley Cole to back four, Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard midfield three, with Rooney leading the line with Ronaldo and Henry either side. It's hard to argue that's not a world-class 11. So now to see us away into the night, we've got Hugh Darrant's Stats Corner. Have you got any stats to kind of see us away?
I've got two stats actually from Stats Corner this week. The first one forms a part of a quiz for you guys. See if you can.
Nice.
Okay.
So I got this up from researching the previous sort of activity in terms of the Premier League. So I want to know from you guys which goalkeeper has the most Premier League assists?
Oof.
Oh,
Nigel Martin.
No, it's not.
Is this from 92? Like from the inception of the Premier League?
From 1992.
Paul Robinson.
It absolutely is. Paul Robinson.
Oh, it is.
I was going to say Paul Robinson.
Come on.
Do you know how many for a bonus?
I don't. I just remember him scoring that ridiculous goal.
17.
No, nothing like that. It's five assists.
It's not a bad return. He was on fantasy football these days.
And Rainer 4-2.
How many points
do
keepers get on fantasy football for scoring?
I think it's just 5, isn't it?
No, it's
defenders
6.
get 6.
6, yeah, 6 for a defender.
6.
Because the last goalkeeper score was Begovic, wasn't it? About 3 or 4 years ago. Probably even longer than that, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while back now.
Yeah.
So it hit the pitch and it bounced over Boris.
And the exact same thing happened with Paul Robinson's goal.
Yeah, it did.
Anyway, sorry, Hugh.
So the final one, which I found this on Reddit and I absolutely loved it. It's an amazing stat. So
you know what he's been doing this morning?
It's about Everton. So since
he can hardly contain himself.
He's so excited.
So since sponsoring with Angry Birds in 2017, Everton's record against clubs with a bird on their crest has increased by 0.5 points per game, taking an equal 3-year period on the side. It was an amazing. I read the. Fantastic. It's all on Angry Birds.
He has delivered.
Hugh has delivered and more.
So now when they're playing Brighton with their seagulls,
Seagulls,
they
Cardiff,
get an extra
Bluebird.
points for game.
Well.
Any
Right, well,
thoughts on-
Final section then.
avoid legal snag by telling people they're being recorded. Come on.